Hey everybody, this is Brian from Breaking Down Security. What you're going to hear this week is part 2 of our interview with Jack from the Darknet Diaries. We're going to talk about some events that have happened the people in the InfoSec industry may not know about if they're new to InfoSec. Or, if you lived through it, like, say, the Configure Worm, you might, look back and smile and, shake your head about how ignorant we were. But what Jack does is, since the events are in the past, he can go back through, various, news articles or what have you, and find and research these events and give you a more full picture of what happened, how it happened, and maybe who even did it. So he might do one on the SQL Slammer worm, or he might do one on a hacking of a specific breach or something that happened in the past. So if you're interested in his show, you can find out about that at the end of our podcast this week. So I'm going to let the show happen. So take it away, everybody. Okay, so number 3, this one got me all nostalgic. I shed a tear a little bit for old timey days here. So Jack, you're saying back in the 90s, strong crypto was illegal online. Now, what exactly do you mean by that? To be honest, back in the 90s, crypto wasn't all that strong to begin with, was it?
Right. No, it was just Dez. So I was, as I'm making show, I'm trying to come up with some interesting topics, and something that's just always been interesting me for years is the crypto wars of the 90s. And it first came on my radar, even though I was in the 90s doing computer. I was on MUDs back then, playing MUDs way back then. But
nice.
There was listening to Cory Doctorow's book, Little Brother. Mm-hmm. And very briefly, he talked about how there was this crypto wars, and it was the people versus the government, all about cryptography and encryption. And I was like, I got to know more about this. So I dove into this. And as it turns out, pretty much all through the 90s, starting with the Cold War, encryption was on the munitions list for the government. So It's the same thing as like a Stinger missile or any military grade weapon. You couldn't transport it over borders without some sort of permit. And encryption was on that same list. So anytime encryption is going to pass over the US border, you needed a permit. And of course, the internet is just all over the world. So there's no way. So the only thing that they would allow to go over the border was DES. And already by the 90s, we knew DES was not very strong. Yep. So it just wasn't a solution. So it took, I think it was Phil Zimmerman that got it started. He started to sue the government over his PGP tool. He wanted to be able to ship that across the borders. And then there was a few teachers and lawyers and professors, as well as the EFF, all got involved with, I think there were 3 or 4 lawsuits. Actually, Phil Zimmerman didn't sue him. The government came after Phil because they were really concerned about PGP. And so there was just a ton of pressure. There was 3 lawsuits against the government to say, we need this to be stronger. And there was AES at the time. That was already a thing. And it was Bruce Schneier even wrote a book on cryptography at the time, outlining all these better solutions. Mm-hmm. And here's the crazy thing. So that book, you could ship it across borders, even though it has formulas for cryptography in the book. That could be shipped. But one of the professors said, I'm going to put this on a CD and ship it across the borders. And the government said, no, you can't put it on a CD and ship it, because now it's an electronic form and now it's a munitions list, and you can't do this. So wow. It became a First Amendment right. We can't even talk about this stuff anymore. We can't, why is a book okay, but a CD's not? And it just became so ridiculous. Eventually the people won on this one. Obviously, we know how strong encryption is allowed now. Yep. But one of the things that kind of broke it down was the EFF built a tool to demonstrate that DES was weak, and they were able to crack DES with off-the-shelf computers in under a day. It was like 22 hours. They could crack a DES message with just off-the-shelf stuff.
Wow.
And it's like, come on, like you really want this to be our strongest, like this is what banks are using, hospitals, everything. And this is all that's allowed. And finally the government said, you're right. It's no longer strong enough. And,
yep.
and it was just taken off the munitions list entirely. And they let the internet to be used, whatever encryption you want.
Yeah.
And it was just a big battle in the 90s.
Yeah. So for you young punks out there, DES is a data encryption standard. They upgraded it to something called triple DES, which had 3 keys, but DES was only a 56-bit key. So there was only 2 to the 56 possible ways in which a message could be encrypted. So that's, if you go in our show notes, the Wikipedia article is available to look at. But yeah, this reminds me, because when I was in the Navy, one of the things I did on an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean was, maintaining the IT computers. And Microsoft at the time, I was using Windows 2000, the latest hotness, and IE6 was the brand new browser that was available, but I couldn't download the 128-bit version because I was overseas. I actually had to have a friend of mine from San Diego download the EXE and then, send it to me so that I could get it. And it was, he had to send it to me by, zip archive. So I had like 150 zip files that he emailed me so that I could deploy it over my network. But yeah, I could not access it because I was outside of the United States. And that was, that was 1999, I think. So 1999, 2000 was when I was there. So, yeah, I mean, that stuff was still an issue even then. So for any of you who remember that, that's, that was available. Yeah, so yeah, that's about the same time. So the EFF built Deep Crack, which broke the DES standard using for $250,000, which at the time now, $250,000 in this day and age would crack pretty much anything, I think, if you bought enough Amazon GPUs. So took 56 hours of work, and they won $10,000. So they spent $250,000, they won $10,000.
Yeah, but so that was their first version. 56 hours is what they first came at, and the government still said, we don't think that's fast enough.
Right.
And they kept it on, like the NIST kept it on. They said no, it's still secure even after it's been cracked at 54 hours, and so they had to come up with another version to crack it even faster before they finally gave in.
Yep.
It was expensive, but they just use off the shelf stuff. So anybody who's motivated enough or funded enough could be cracking this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
And another big part of this was when the Clipper chip came out at the same time. So this was an encryption chip that would go into electronics and encrypt something. I don't even know what it would encrypt it as, but it would encrypt it very strongly, and the other end would decrypt it with the Clipper chip. Mm-hmm. But Matt Blaze, which is a prominent security researcher, showed us that you can find, so those Clipper chip had a backdoor that the government was the only one that should have had access to it. Right. But Matt Blaze just showed us how you can easily get through the backdoor. It was vulnerable to attacks, and anyone could really use the Clipper chip to their advantage. Yeah, so that was a big deal too.
That's interesting. So the government put a backdoor inside these chips. We're very much still talking about trying to put encryption backdoors into systems, and people seem to have forgotten the Clipper chip was a thing at the time. So, it's interesting how we have forgotten that the government lost control of the backdoor that they'd put into place, and somebody found it and could learn how to use it and exploit that possibly. So. That was, I do remember the Clipper chip now that I look at it.
It's still a heated debate. And I think that's why I like having these conversations. That's why I like to bring this stuff up is to hear what people are saying, because when you have a government that wants to protect its people, and that's, that's what it's supposed to do. That's its mission. And it can't because there's just so much encryption, then it really feels frustrated, and it tries to be clever with figuring this out. Mm-hmm. And of course, you get people who are like, well, you're going too far, government, if you want to be able to decrypt everything and all this stuff. And it's an interesting debate.
Yeah. Yeah. So along the same lines of playing in the government, so you've got here number 4, the NSA scrapes social media and regular OSINT and use regular OSINT techniques to figure out how to best attack a network. I'm not sure how that's such a big deal. I mean, I know Miss Berlin, set it up a bunch of fake like LinkedIn accounts last year for our CTF with the idea that people would do OSINT to figure out how to attack our CTF. I mean, how is the fact that the government is doing the same thing any different than what a normal person doing a CTF or doing a regular pen testing engagement would do?
Yeah, it's not really that different. But what I got was a APT on my episode, basically, right? I don't know if he's from NSA or FBI. He wouldn't tell me, but he was deep in there, and to hear how he scours Reddit for certain usernames or stuff like what he was trying to attack a foreign embassy, mm-hmm. and he would find the people on LinkedIn who work at that embassy that are in the IT department, and they would say things like, "Oh, I'm really good at Oracle 12." And then he's like, "Okay, well, I think this company, this embassy probably is running Oracle 12." Right. And then he can link that to Reddit names and start looking through just our sysadmin, and it's just amazing because this is a Reddit subreddit I'm on. And to think that there's also the NSA is looking at this right now, it kind of just brings it home, and it scares the crap out of me. Like, yeah, I think us as security people know not to put this stuff up there, but the coders, the programmers, the database admins, they're like, hey, can somebody help me troubleshoot this vulnerability? And they'll put it up on Stack Overflow or whatever with IP stuff in there. Like, it's ridiculous.
So, okay, in that case. So a lot of companies are like, you need to scrub your social media accounts. You need to, don't tell people where you work at. Do they need to take it further when they're talking about social media to say, okay, you need to, think about what you're sharing? Or does your internal red team need to be, I don't know, taking a look at, where people are surfing the web and, following and shadowing those people on social media to find out what they're doing? Because like you said with Stack Overflow, they're popping source code in that is obviously being used at their own organization. So that lets bad guys in on whatever code is inside the environment, which if they've posted something that has a known vulnerability in it, or they can show that right here, this line has a known vulnerability in it, that could be used to exploit that environment.
Yeah, obviously their security awareness training did not work at that foreign government agency because they're still putting, identifiable stuff right there on the internet, easy to see. And for me, I don't have a LinkedIn account because I don't want to be part of this problem. And it's weird that my company asked me for my LinkedIn account sometimes, my old company that I would work with. Right. Like, can you give us your LinkedIn account? I'm like, no, because I don't want the world to know that this is, not only who works there, but also like what I'm good at. I'm good at ArcSight. I'm good at Cisco ASAs. Like, now what we're running internally. And it's like,
you can have one of my LinkedIn accounts if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, I try not to advertise who I work for. Well, I mean, that was in the past. The things with the new job, it's kind of in flux right now. I don't know if I'm going to drop my OPSEC a little bit. It's a different threat model for me. So, I mean, what I was doing in my other job and what we did in my other job was quite a bit more, I would say, sensitive than what I'm doing now. My current job is a PM. So, I won't tell people I can't tell you where I work, but if you ask me directly, then I'll tell you. But I mean, for me, OPSEC was a big thing for the longest time, and it feels weird to think about dropping that kind of hard-lined OPSEC rule for a lot of people. So anyway. So I'm sorry, I digressed. So I mean, so you had somebody on who was doing this kind of stuff. What kind of OSINT techniques were they using? Were they using any specific sites? Were they, using any kind of, special, software to do OSINT?
Yeah, so it's really interesting episode. I think that's going to be episode 10 if you want to check it out of Darknet mm-hmm. Diaries. He breaks it down step by step. it's really fascinating that they do a lot of OSINT, a ton of OSINT before they are able to do anything, because in the government, you have to get permission to use these vulnerabilities. Right. And then you have to show like how much risk it is to use these vulnerabilities. And so they need, like, they're going to build a whole attack package saying, well, we need something that's going to attack Oracle 12. And they need to go and actually, you've seen the playbook that the NSA has and stuff. So they just don't have access to everything and approval for everything. They have to be very specific of what they're going to use. So this whole OSINT process is massive, and it takes a team of like 10, 15 people, 3 months. And if you can imagine a full-time 3 months of 15 people trying to get a full dossier from, off of a foreign government agency, they're going to have it completely detailed. And yeah, it goes through LinkedIn. It then connects that, person to MySpace, Facebook, Reddit, everywhere they can to get more information. Like every single thing that person has ever posted online, they're gonna download that and save that and have screenshots of that and try to build it out. And they got it down to the version of Windows that sysadmin is running. And so they got a list of every single sysadmins that's on the network, every list of every DBA, the entire source code for their website and their servers that they're running, like everything. If you connect the yarn enough on the internet, the NSA has, and this all through OSINT. So there's like no special tools that they had,
right?
And there were no alarms that they could have possibly tripped to grab this stuff, because it's all on public space.
It's just time and effort.
Yeah. And they have it. They have the resources to do that.
Makes sense. Mr. Betcher, Ms. Berlin, you have any thoughts or anything you'd like to add to that? OSINT's powerful, man.
I'd totally take a job doing purely OSINT. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You probably could. Now there's probably a model for this, but put out fake stuff, like a fake vulnerability, sort of like almost a token where you would have an alarm bell go off if somebody tried to exploit something that you put on, say, Stack Overflow or whatever, or Reddit, and ask the question, hey, here's my code, and somebody tries to exploit it.
Yep.
Right? So I think we can think about that, sort of having fake data on your company if you really care about that.
Right. Yeah, I posted a link in our OSINT channel, because we have an OSINT and a social engineering channel, about one of our members named Gary posted fcc.io, which if you're doing any kind of hardware hacking or need an FCC ID for some kind of electronic gadget or bit inside your system, you can look up useful information in there, test setup data, manuals, internal photos of the components, etc. I mean, if you need that kind of information or that granularity, I mean, that stuff is out there. So, I mean, that could just add additional information to how to what you need to exploit your potential target, especially if they're using specialized hardware. So, all right, so one more. I think we can do one more here. We're at 52 minutes somewhat right now. So you did a show with a gentleman by the name of Manfred. You say he did a living hacking MMOs, which is massive multi-playing RPGs like World of Warcraft, Dark Age of Camelot. That one's dating myself. I apologize. And for the last 20 years, and he tried to do it as ethically as possible. So he's ethically hacking MMOs.
Yeah, it's really that's the thing that kind of gets me about this is it possible to be an ethical black hat hacker? What this guy did was he would find flaws in MMOs that would allow him to maybe duplicate the stuff on his character. So now, if he's got 1,000 gold, now he's got 2,000 gold. He's not impacting any other players. He's not competing with the business model of the game makers, because back in Dark Age of Camelot, they weren't selling gold. They were only selling a monthly subscription. Right. So there was no in-app purchases for almost the last 20 years. It's only recently started showing up.
Yeah.
So he wasn't, in his mind, I'm talking about, what his point of view is here.
Right.
He did not feel like he was doing anything, against the game. I don't know. He didn't think he was being unethical, because there were some Chinese and Russian hackers that would actually try to get into other players' accounts and steal all their gear, strip them, and then and they would do that by creating like fan pages for those games. And then as you log into those fan pages, now you've just given your password to a Chinese hacker or something like that.
Right.
So they were actually just stripping things like crazy. Now I think that's unethical.
Sure.
Because you're damaging the other players and you're causing a problem. In this case, he never wanted to do that. I mean, he did in his early days when he just started learning about what he could do here. But, as he got better, he said, I don't think I want to hurt any other players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in the day, like Dark Age of Camelot, there was one I used to play when I was on that island in the Indian Ocean called Asheron's Call. I used to play it over dial-up with a 750 millisecond ping rate, and it would still work fine, which is ironic because you never can do that at this day and age. But yeah, it wasn't a freemium model like we normally have these days with a lot of MMOs where you can play for free and then you just pay for everything inside. That can definitely destabilize an MMO by doing so. So what did he finally get bored? I mean, why did he quit doing it?
I think he still quit because of the in-app purchases. Now he's competing directly with the game makers. He could still get all the gold he wants out of these things, but when they're also selling gold, now it might be illegal. Now they've got reasons to come after him. But all these years, nobody ever came after him. There were no lawyers coming after him. There was a couple cease and desists. And I mean, we're talking about 20 different games: Ultima Online, Asheron's Call, Final Fantasy, Dark Age of Camelot, World of Warcraft, like tons and tons of games. So when he just did this over and over, and what he was using was like reverse engineering the game client. So he'd find bugs in on his computer. So he was never actually hacking into their service. He was always doing it locally on his own computer, and often doing kind of a man in the middle as well, where the packet would go from his computer to the server and he would change a value on the way there.
Right.
And it would just say, well, this person now has 1 billion gold or something. And that was it.
Well, I mean, if it was that easy, I mean, if anybody could just fire up burp and, change how much gold you've got, then, I mean, there's definitely
for Dark Age of Camelot. Well, actually, it was Shadowbane. There was no server side validation, so you could absolutely do it with burp for that game. And he was able to do everything. He was able to set himself max level, bring dragons into the newbie area, set whatever equipment he wanted, just because it was just set ID character, and boom, you've got it. There's no server side validation.
I was doing that wrong the whole time. I was actually trying to play the game and grind for hours on end. Man, damn it. Anyway, so does he still do it, or did he just grow out of playing MMOs?
No, he hung up, and that's why he's able to talk about this now. Last year at DEF CON, he gave a talk. He was going to demonstrate some of this stuff for like WildStar Online,
right?
Which is current game that's going on. He has a way to get 18 quintillion gold by manipulating one of the auctions.
Wow.
But the goons told him, don't demonstrate like 0 days right on stage. You don't want that kind of stuff.
Right.
So he didn't. And then his talk did get put on YouTube, because that's where all DEF CON talks eventually end up. But it got a cease and desist from one of the game makers. Said, oh, please don't talk about the vulnerabilities in our game. And so DEF CON had to take down the YouTube video. So it kind of went away for a while. And that's why I said, I need to get this story out there. So it's back. Cool. It's back out there because of Darknet Diaries.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's it. I do appreciate you coming on the show. I do find that we don't do a lot of history. I know Mr. Daniels does like InfoSec history, so he talks about somebody in InfoSec that has, or in history that has done something for computer science or for InfoSec. He does that at cons. Your podcast is very interesting with talking about the history of that. So I assume it's purely unvarnished, and you try to give all possible sides to the discussion when you're doing them.
Yeah, I try to take a journalistic approach and really not interject my opinions in anything. And just, if it's published somewhere else, I'm going to probably talk about it and not really bring in my own thing. But with my background in security, I'm able to try to break it down as simple as possible, because one of the things I want to do is share these stories with non-InfoSec people as well, where it doesn't really matter your knowledge of security. You can still understand what a default password is and how dangerous that is to you.
Right. Okay. So how often do these come out?
Right now I'm publishing monthly.
Monthly. Okay. Very cool.
We're at 16 episodes.
Nice.
So it's binge worthy.
Okay. So, Jack, if people wanted to maybe give you ideas for future podcasts, or maybe there's somebody who has done something interesting, because you do interviews. You had the gentleman Manfred on. How would they go about getting a hold of you if they wanted to contact you?
Yeah, sure. I'm definitely looking for really interesting, intriguing InfoSec stories, and we've all been to these InfoSec conferences and heard some crazy stuff over a couple beers or whatever it is.
Right.
And those are the things that are the juiciest ones that we'd rather not say are probably the best, but they're really hard to get a hold of. So,
right.
If you have something that's just an amazing InfoSec story, I'd love to hear it. I'm on Twitter a lot. My Twitter handle is @TunnelsUp. But you can find me lots of different contact ways to find me at darknetdiaries.com.
Cool. Very nice. All right. Ms. Berlin, I know that you are always available for doing the keynotes and such. Where are you going to be in the next few weeks?
I feel like I'm once you do one, you're on this automatic thought leader keynote list that people always want to
should we put that in your business card?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Amanda Berlin.
Someone got a hold of my business cards, the one with my creepy face.
Right.
And they ended up in all the book giveaways at Converge.
Oh wow.
I think it was Tim DeBlock, but I'm not sure.
Wow. Well, Tim, thank you for doing that. You've made the world a lot.
At first I thought he just put it in mine, but then people were flipping through the other ones. They're like, why is this business card in here? I'm like, oh, why is that my business card in there?
Very nice. Very nice. So how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to, discuss your book or discuss doing a keynote? You will travel for them. You've gone all the way down to New Zealand, so I can't imagine you wouldn't go anywhere else.
Yeah, and Zurich in June. I'm still super excited about.
Oh, snap. I forgot about that.
Hope I can walk by then.
Oh, that's right. You got a gimpy knee. Right. How would they get a hold of you?
On Twitter at InfoSister, INFOSYSTIR.
Okay. Do you know if that meeting in Zurich, if there's still tickets available for that? What is that?
It is Area 41 Con. It is their DEF CON group putting together a conference.
Okay. I wonder if there's any tickets available for that still. Let me see.
Maybe.
Well, their Twitter, Area 41 Con hasn't tweeted yet. All right. Well, that's very, very good. Okay. Anyway, so keep looking and let me know. Mr. Betcher, if people wanted to discuss, LogMD or how it works, or if they wanted to talk to you about malware in general, how would they go about doing so?
They can hit me up on the DM on Twitter at BetcherPwned, BOETTCHERPWNED.
He's all hip with the kids on hit me up on the DMs and stuff.
They do still have tickets available, and I don't know what this translates to in USD, but it is $275.
Okay.
Which I think is pretty close to 1-to-1 with their currency.
Okay. What's the website?
It is area41.io.
Area41.io. Very interesting. Area 41. I can't type tonight. Area41.io. All right, so there's a link in the show notes to Area41.io where Ms. Berlin will be keynoting again in Zurich.
I'm not keynoting on that one. I'm just talking.
Oh, you're just talking, but it's in Zurich, Switzerland, and that's an awesome place.
Pretty much good enough reason to go to anything.
I've been to Geneva, which is a fantastic city. I can only imagine Zurich is awesome. So get over there and get you some chocolate and get to meet some people. So awesome. So we have a Slack channel. If you are interested in joining our Slack channel, which has, I don't know, according to our Hallway Con, which is our general chat, we have 1,201 users on there. Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
We've broke 1,200, and I think we have about 300 to 400 active users, probably closer to 450. But if you're interested in doing that, you can DM us at the show's Twitter by going to @Breaksec, BRAKESEC, or you can email us at bds.podcast@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at BrianBrake, BRYANBRAKE. We also are on Google Play Store if you want to listen to that, or if you want to tell a friend about us and they go, well, I don't know if I like listening to podcasts, and they're probably not on anything we're on. We're on the Google Play Store. We're on Apple Podcasts. If you're an Apple Podcast, please leave feedback. That makes sure that new listeners will have a better chance of finding us, and we appreciate you for doing so. We're also on the TuneIn Radio app. We're on Stitcher. We just put the BDIR podcast, which Mr. Betcher does with Michael Goff, on Stitcher as well. We're in Spotify. BDIR isn't yet, but the Breaking Down Security podcast is on Spotify, so you can go search for us on that. All of the links to where we're at's in the show notes, so if you're confused or bewildered or lost, you can find us in the show notes. So lastly, I'd like to thank a gentleman by the name of Tim. He donated to our Patreon, gave us $10 a month. I'm not sure why. Maybe he made a rounding error or something, and it was $1.
Why'd you tell him?
I almost was like, are you sure you want to give that much? Because I'm like, you don't really have to, but
like that's as much as Netflix.
I know.
Like, put that in perspective.
Thank you.
I don't know that I'm pretty sure we're not as worth as much as Netflix.
Yeah, that's like half a cup of coffee for me. Yeah. Once I get my 6-shot, latte in the morning, that's like $12 or something. So, thank you for giving me coffee for a couple days or so. I appreciate you.
I think
Tim.
we can help people's careers, whereas Netflix might hinder them. You can either listen to some security knowledge, right?
That's true.
Or you can veg out on a season of whatever show piques your interest.
That's true.
I watched the documentary thing on McAfee.
Oh hell! Well,
holy crap! Like there was some stuff I definitely learned, but
I'm good on that. I don't need to see that.
You should watch it.
No thanks. Good. No, I'm really good. I'm really okay with not watching that. I don't understand InfoSec's deal with him. Somebody's like, oh, he's awesome. He's John McAfee. He's like, somebody's grandpa. And I'm like,
I sold him lockpicks once. This is super creepy.
Yeah. You sold him lockpicks. Yeah, at
DEF CON, I worked the tool booth.
Ah, all right. Yeah, I don't understand InfoSec's obsession with like John McAfee. He's not an anti-hero in my opinion, but I'll take your hate mail. BDS.podcast.
It's kind of like a train wreck. You just it's fun to watch.
Oh, okay. I can see that. All right.
I mean, never mind.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. All right. Well, anybody else have any other thoughts or anything? Jack, how would people get a hold of your podcast?
Oh, that's at darknetdiaries.com, and it's available in all your podcast players.
Okay. darknetdiaries.com. Right on. Okay. Thank you, Jack, for coming on the show. I hope that, you have continued success, and, he will be looking for a job in a couple of months, he says. He didn't say that on the show, I don't think. He just did because I said it. But, if you're looking for, what are you looking for in a job if you're looking?
Yeah, that's a good question.
CEO? Are you trying to? What?
It's hard to tell. I have a lot of experience with Blue Team, but the Red Team is also very interesting to me. So we'll see actually when I get there.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that's it for this week's episode of Breaking Down Security. Everyone have a great week. Please be nice to one another, and we will talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.